Welcome to Machines More. Today the Cooler Master StreamEnjin is launching. Streaming and audio video equipment is a new product category for Cooler Master, so it's really good to see the company expanding their portfolio. And a big thanks to Cooler Master for sending the review unit and letting me get an extended early hands-on experience with the device. So let's take a look. I'll walk you through some of the features of this guy here. I'll give you a quick demo, and then I'll give you some feedback on my likes and dislikes for the product, as well as who this might be ideal for. This is an all-in-one live stream mixer that's designed to deliver a quick and easy interface for mixing your next live stream. And one of the features for this device is its portability. I mean, we're not talking about a very large device at all, so it's really easy to lug around. So it's kind of like having a stream PC with capture card for your gaming PC, as well as being able to plug in a standalone camera combined with physical audio controls, broadcast, switching, video, mixing, and also if you're using the iPad app, a monitor as well. So combined into a relatively small package. It's a really nifty idea. So yeah, it does need a compatible Apple iPad, but I'll discuss what it does shortly when I talk about connecting the device up during the demo. Let's start with the video. On the back, it has 3 HDMI inputs. 2 are for 1080p and one's for a 4K source. Now, by default, the 4K source is mapped to your game stream, so that's what you might want to plug your PC into. And then you can plug a camera into either of these two. And for outputs, you'll have a source and program out that lets you monitor the source or the mixed program, and you can toggle between those two and make your choice with the source and program button on the top, and you can just toggle between those. And you also have a video out that displays what's going on in the StreamEnjin app. Both of these video outs are really for more professional monitoring purposes. I mean, you have to go around with 2 extra monitors, kind of defeats the portability and the compactness of this device. And as you'll see in a moment, the required iPad can basically take care of both needs, and it can do it acceptably well. On the audio side, the StreamEnjin takes a mic input through a 1/4-inch phone jack on the back here, and there's also left and right RCA inputs for a line-level analog audio source. To connect to the internet in order to get your stream out there, Ethernet jack is what you'll need. This is a gigabit LAN port, and then if you want to record your feed, you can do so via an external disk drive connected via the USB 3.2 port right here. And if your drive isn't formatted properly, it'll prompt you to accept, and then it'll format your drive into XFAT. On the surface of this unit, you have your audio and your video controls. The numbers here correspond to preset scenes, and you can customize those. I'll show you in just a little bit. We have a knob for audio levels. This is a very basic knob. There's no hard stops here. And the slider on the right controls the mix between the selected preview and the programmed scene, so you can cut between either scene. On the right side of the unit, this is where you would connect your monitoring headphones or your gaming headset to monitor your output, and this is a USB 2.0 port that you would use to connect to the iPad. So about that iPad, it's a required device to operate the unit. You need it to set up your streaming or your recording details, visually monitor your feed, and also make any adjustments to the audio or video presets. So in essence, it is a necessary component. And if you don't already have one, well, this guy really isn't going to be much use to you at all. So to hook up your iPad, you do need a USB A to C cable that's provided by Cooler Master, and they're specifically saying you can only use this cable. And if you have a compatible iPad that takes USB-C, that's what you would use. But if you have one that takes the Lightning, then you'll need the Lightning to USB adapter. And then you can use the iPad with the StreamEnjin app as your hub to control the StreamEnjin. So with that, let's just dive into a quick demo. I'll show you the basic setup here and how to use it for a game stream. Okay, here I've got the StreamEnjin 11-inch iPad Pro. And what we'll do is just hook up the cable here. And it'll do its handshaking with the StreamEnjin device. What we've got here is the NR200P dual rad system here. See that right there? And I've got the HDMI out of the RTX 2070 water-cooled. That'll go into the StreamEnjin's 4K input, and then as soon as this is ready, we can start recording. Now, I'm recording the sound through my lav mic here, but I'm going to switch over to the shotgun mic, which is on a boom stand and hooked up to the camera soon. So once we're connected here, you'll see, well, we can plug in our hard disk here. And so it'll tell you external disk is connected. So if it's just recording, then you'll do that. What you'll want to do is make sure that your stream settings are set up correctly. You can have up to 2 stream servers simultaneously, but you can't record if you've got 2 streams. So you can only have 2 things going on at the same time. So for this one, you've got YouTube Live. You can choose YouTube Live, Facebook, or Twitch. If you select any of these, you can just log in and your stream keys will be built into your account. But you can also key in your RTMP and your own stream key and do it that way too. So the other thing you'll want to check is your output settings. You probably want to be streaming more at like 4,500 or depending on your connection quality. So that's the normal setting here. There's another default here, quality 6,000 kilobits per second. We'll hit apply and let's start. So we can go cut over here. I've got this as my program view, so we'll just hit record or go live. Same thing, this record here is same thing on the hard console. If you want the higher frame rate, you'll have to go down to 720, unfortunately. So you also want to check your mic levels. Your mic levels, you can do that through the audio view here. It's pretty neat. You have all your levels here. The HDMI one, you see that's the gameplay, so you can toggle the audio if your game is not loud enough. You can make it really loud there. Or we can dial it down here. I think around this level was when I tested it at. Mic levels here too, I've got it set up in my camera. You can also connect it directly to the StreamEnjin. From a syncing perspective, it's better to do it if your camera has built-in input, but otherwise you can just connect it directly. Now the camera also has its own microphone, so I could have used that as well. But this way you kind of get the best of both worlds. When I tested the mic alone, I did have to dial up the gain quite a bit, I think to +9, despite this being a mic that had a +20 dB output. So one feature this streaming deck has is audio follows video, or it's labeled AFV here. That just means that if you select that, if your selected source goes out of view, your audio cuts out too. If you select it, the audio is going to be on. So if you set it up this way, I think that's the cleanest way to do it, unless you want to be speaking when your face is not visible and it's just the gameplay. Let's just go back here, and we're in this program here. So I've got Red Dead 2 fired up at 1440p on the gaming PC. Let's go ahead and check out DLSS. So with DLSS on quality, mostly high settings here. I'm hitting in the high 80s. It's not too bad. It does take a little getting used to how sharp the image is. It does look a little unnaturally sharp, but for the most part, it's pretty good. You could go with a more performance DLSS setting, but for this title, I think you want to preserve as much picture quality as possible, and this frame rate really is good enough. Something you might wonder is, how does this compare to using OBS? Well, gaming at 1440p and using the NVENC encoder, at least on this 2070, there's a slight FPS hit if you stream at 720, 60. From my experience, it drops into the 70s, high 70s, and if you do stream at 1080, then that FPS is a lot heavier, all the way down to about 60. I do have my card overclocked here, so it is performing pretty well. Right now, I'm in the 90 FPS range. So that is just the gameplay, though. If you throw in a camera, that would be more taxing on your system overall. All right, so everything you're hearing now is coming through the StreamEnjin. Audio is coming through. And you can also, whenever you want, you can also just cut over here, toggle how much sound is coming through the gameplay. I can control the overall sound level just through this knob here. You can see this is going to get really quiet. And I think if you know how to read the levels, you just want to make sure it's in the -12 to -6 range. So it's pretty intuitive. You always have a preview in a program. If I want to go over to, say, let's try 7, it'll preview, you know, if I want to look. That's a little much. It's a little too glorious. But yeah, if I wanted to do that, I'd be like, okay, let's cut over and, you know, program. So that's the 3-second default transition. I can also do a jump cut. So then you've got your preview and your program scene selected. Like here it's 3 and 7, so I can just cut between those two pretty seamlessly. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't really like this view. I wanna just, you know, stick to my normal self, and then cut over there, and then I'll also select the picture-in-picture gameplay rank. That's the pretty standard mode, and then I'll just cut back over. So yeah, as a whole, streaming this way is super convenient. Having the touch controls on the iPad are great as a backup. Now you're not, if you read the manual carefully, Cooler Master says you're not really supposed to use the iPad for the touch controls. It's really because of how flimsy the support system is on this. But you can, if you have it on its own stand too, that's definitely okay. But the hard controls, that's where it's at. Let's get back to the review before I fall off this bridge here. Ooh. And let's just take a break, right? So if you're not streaming, you can also use this for production as well. Although if you're using this for on-the-fly recording through the StreamEnjin, the resolution and the bitrate is limiting if you're not strictly streaming it. And right now I'm recording directly in camera at 1080 as well as through the StreamEnjin, so there should be a perceivable quality difference, and most likely there's a compromise. Unless you really need to get the finished mix on the fly and record it through the device, I would output to an external HDMI recorder. So as you've seen here, the iPad is the center console and it's critical to the whole thing working well, and if you don't have one, well, this isn't really going to be really useful for you. So you do either need to have one already or be ready to purchase one. For the pros on the StreamEnjin, well, it works well. It's intuitive, the stream quality is adequate, and most of all, it's more or less a centralized compact console. So if you're just streaming games, it really cuts down on the monitors you need or other junk that you might have sitting around. And for me, this really beats running OBS in the background and having to monitor on a separate monitor while you're gaming, and it also beats the bulk and the hassle of having a stream PC. And to top it off, it's a lot more user-friendly just from a control and live production standpoint. Build of this device is good. It's solid, well built, lots of metal, heatsink on the bottom to keep the unit cool. It doesn't necessarily have to be super portable for game stream, but it is. And you could have a multi-camera production going on with this too, so it could be good for simple broadcasts on site, religious or social gatherings, company meetings. So performance-wise, I think this is a quite versatile device. In this space, you have products like Blackmagic Design's ATEM Minis, which I've used, and those do require monitors, a separate computer, and I think once you get used to how this works and learn how its idiosyncrasies, this one is way more lean with what it needs, and it's definitely much more portable. Now onto some concerns I have about this device. Well, first off, it's not cheap. The MSRP is $830 US, and that's going to be a tough pill to swallow for casual gamers or streamers. For what you're getting, it's not unreasonable, but at that price, I do think the ask becomes a lot higher in terms of perfection, and having something like 1080-60 might have been more palatable. As a first-gen product, this one still has a few rough edges as well. First off, there's no power switch. I'm fine with unplugging a cable, that's fine, but you know, for $830, that's very unrefined. A simple toggle switch would have been fine here. It just seems like a huge oversight. Next, while I have a series of potential improvements to consider as far as the iPad goes, you do need one, and that's fine. I think a lot of folks have one already, but if you don't, well, I wouldn't run out and go buy one just to use this thing, and I do think that limits the market somewhat. If you're already running on iPad OS, can you make this work with an iPhone or an Android phone? Smaller interface, but phones are more ubiquitous, and I think that many would be happy to use it for easy monitoring and just punching in the stream key. And you already have a very flexible hard console here for the execution. So for me, that would be good enough just to use a smartphone. And as far as the iPad goes, well, there's this groove here. It fits an iPad, but it doesn't really, support the back of it. So, and because the friction fit is what keeps it in place, it's got to be cut exactly for the typical iPad thickness. And what if Apple changes the thickness of the next iPad? And what if you're using a folio like a lot of people do for an iPad? Well, it doesn't fit in here, right? A simple slide in back could preserve the portability of this device and also mitigate the concern of an unsupported or thickness or a variety of mounting or even the tilt angle of the iPad. In terms of portability, the physical attribute of this device is fine, but if you're remote, where are you going to get an Ethernet cable? You're going to need an adapter, and for some gamers, you're going to be on Wi-Fi, and you're not next to your router either, so you'll need a Wi-Fi to Ethernet adapter, or you'll need to share the Wi-Fi connection from your PC to your StreamEnjin, and that's okay, but I feel like on that portability theme, Wi-Fi should have at least been a minimum option for the device. Well, if no Wi-Fi, that's fine. Then you kind of have a device here that is internet connected that you could piggyback off of, right? And why not send the encoded video for the iPad to stream? You might update this connection to USB 3, and heck, later iPads like my 11-inch iPad Pro here have so much computing power already. Instead of putting the encoding hardware into the device and then bundling that into the cost, why not offload that task to the iPad, and considering that it's already connected to it? Then you can just have this as a mixer and a physical control console and figure out a way to let the iPad do what iPads do best. And I really could see 1080-60 being possible with this device. And well, you can also mitigate needing an external hard drive if you have enough storage on your iPad, right? Because this is a 256 gigabyte model, and they go up to 1 terabyte, so you can record directly in your iPad if you want. Furthermore, if you're a streamer and you use a USB webcam, well, all of a sudden now you need a camera with HDMI output. Okay, that's fine, you might be upgrading your image quality, but if your face is only this big on the output and you just need a basic image comparable to your webcam for streaming, well, guess what this guy has that you could tap into? A decent front-facing camera. And it has another back-facing camera too if you want another angle for your live broadcast, right? If you can turn it the right way. And lastly, it's fine that your iPad has to be connected to the StreamEnjin, but at least with the sample I tested here, it wouldn't charge my iPad, and that for me is a big miss because really there's no other way to charge the iPad when it's connected with your cable. Sure, I could shut off the screen of the iPad during extended use to preserve the battery, but what's the point then, right? On that note, there is a firmware update coming up that will allow the iPad to wirelessly communicate with the StreamEnjin, so that would allow you to charge it separately, but I mean, you've kind of got power in this device already, so it'd be nice to charge your iPad from it. As far as the StreamEnjin itself goes, there is one element of the layout I would recommend changing, and that is the position of the mic in, or the position of the headphone/monitor out. Why? Because plenty of people will be using a headset with a cable that splits up into two shorter sections like a gaming headset, and this really won't work having this on one side and this over here unless you have a dongle to extend that over, because those two cables are pretty close together. Sure, folks could go get one, but it really just makes a lot more sense to have those two adjacent to one another, like on the back of your motherboard. And I know that's a lot of critical points, and I do think this device holds a lot of promise. You do have to start somewhere, and it's a really decent start. If you're running OBS or just getting into streaming and you don't already have a stream PC or a capture card, then I think I really would look into this given the cost of that equipment versus the ease of use of this thing. And I think being able to enjoy your gaming experience fully while still seamlessly delivering a good enough quality stream is the strength of this device. For remote production, as you've seen, there is some compromise with the recording out of this device, but if you can get around the Ethernet and you're doing live broadcasts, this is a pretty easy device to lug around, and it's really convenient just having the iPad for monitoring. So all in all, it's a great device. Some potential first-gen improvements for Cooler Master to consider, but besides that, I think users will be quite happy with it. So what do you think? Are you interested? Share your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will leave links down below in the description if you're interested in checking it out. Please also give a like if you enjoyed this review. Subscribe for future content, and hey, thanks for watching today. Oh, sorry, man. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Totally. Oh, no, I'm not aware. I have poor horse control today. I did not. I don't think you just die by getting hit like that. That's a little bit extreme, man. Okay. This isn't soccer. You can stop writhing around now. Hey, man. Alright, let's get out of here.